Hey, welcome back to Right for Freedom, making great documentaries. If you had a choice of colors, he says, if you had a choice of colors, which one would you choose, my brother? Woo! That's the great Curtis Mayfield, born and raised right here in Chicago, which is where I'm coming to you from. My black, green, and red colors, and how I am looking at the Malcolm X documentary series now being offered on Netflix, and why I think it is that you too could get something out of that Netflix documentary. From the standpoint of view of the red, the black, and the green, as we celebrate here Black History Month. So, all kinds of really, really cool things come out for Black History Month, and there's always so much to see. And I've been doing that. And so one of the things I said this year, it's obvious that Malcolm X's documentary came out. This is actually part 2 of the documentary. Part 1 is already out there, and the title got changed around some kind of way. I didn't mean to do that. But anyway, part 2 is taking a look more in depth at the documentary and some of the subjects that were raised newly so in this documentary. What is it that we see in 2020 that was not available to us in the 1960s, the high time of the movement in the United States? So what the documentarian does is he goes back to a time when the movement was charged, when there was all of these factions working supposedly against one another. At that time, Malcolm X was an active leader of the Nation of Islam, and how his relationship with them had changed. And some of the things that caused that change in relationships, it goes through some of the emotions of the time with, some of the persons or the leaders and the children and all of that in the institution at the time. And it takes a look at how, from the standpoint of the black, how Malcolm just started to rise up, right? His oratory skills were just off the chart, and he had the power that he brought to the situation. People were paying attention, newly paying attention to him. He was packing rooms with his oratory skills, and people were listening to what it is he has to say. So the documentarian goes through that phase and explains some of that time and how it is that he, being Malcolm X, was changing the fabric, actually, of the organization with his power. So he does that. But like I said, that there are some flaws in the documentary, and I talked about that a little bit in one. He has a lot of great thoughts that he doesn't quite follow. That would be one of my complaints. And also, when he asks a question, he does not go through the fabric of the answer. And that would be, of course, right, that's the blood, right? The blood or the red of the story. It looks like because he's a first-time documentarian, he does not know quite yet how to present a point along the view that people can kind of remember it, right? So it's a lot of things that he drops off, things just kind of fall off. Like, what do you remember about this video? Well, I hope one of the things that you remember is my reference to Curtis Mayfield, and if you had a choice, okay, I'll stop, of colors, which one would you choose, my brother? So that's one of the things that you do if you're trying to not trying, but when you are telling a story, you want to make something in that story memorable so that people can remember sort of what your point was. And so a lot of times in this documentary, I did not completely understand what the documentarian was really trying to say. I know some of the points was that, one of the big things that he really did say, and I got that, which was that the people that were accused of the actual of some of the shooters were not even in the room, could not have possibly been in the room. So this information is obviously not true, to say the least. So he also does some investigations into why it is that these stories or these these problems in the official story were not followed through by the investigators. So he actually does do some of that in the documentary, where he looks at, who could not have been there. That's what I found to be very interesting. He has names of people who were convicted who could not have possibly been there. So that's one of the things that is important in the video, or in the series, I'm sorry, where he takes a look at the people who were wrongfully convicted and how that impacted the rest of their life. So I think that for that reason, and for many reasons, I think you should take a look at it. But one of the things I want you all to do as you take a look at this documentary is I want you to go back and say to me what it is you are seeing, what it is that you see that is interesting in the documentary, what it is that we need to take a look at. Look, what else do we need to do a documentary on? How else can we work the documentary? What should the next one look like? What should the next one look at? So this is part 2. Like I said, part 2 of this documentary. And I tell you to go out and take a look at it. But on the other side, there's a documentary which we're also going to review. And I said it came out a couple of months ago, and I took a look at the documentary from Netflix, and it's kind of a side. It's definitely not on the Black history side. It's kind of the true crime drama. How much interest there is in the country around true crime dramas, true crime podcasts. There's so much out there about them that it's just really not a way to, ignore that really massive market for examining true crimes. And that is the perspective from where we're going to talk about the other documentary that we'll be comparing and contrasting how the documentarians did their job. We're going to be taking a look at the documentary with Aaron Hernandez that came out, I think, a couple of months ago. And if I'm wrong, you all can, like I said, you can always come out in the comments and let me know what it is that I don't actually have correct. As I actually do believe in truth and, not truth. So come out and let me know what it is that you think. But like I said, what I'm going to do this video on finishing or getting in the middle of the meat, the blood of the Malcolm X Netflix series, where the documentarian explains that as events unfold and are told from the point of view of the 60s, how that actually, there's no actual way in the world that stuff could possibly be true. Now, that may not be news to any of you all, but take a look at the documentary and see what it is somebody who dedicated their life to searching out this work has to say about the death of a very great brother, Malcolm X. All right, I'll see you guys in part